have the Jeopardy theme song playing in the background? All right. All right, let's call this meeting to order at 6:31, July 10th, 2018. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Strauch?
Present.
Trustee Irvin? Here. Trustee Morris?
Here.
Trustee Gordy?
Here.
Trustee Ott?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Walker?
Here.
And Mayor Maloney?
Here. I'm going to remind everyone to turn their microphones on, please. And now we will go into got it. All right. We'll go into the public hearing for a variance request. Steve, did you want to do a precursor on that before I open it up?
So the board is convening as the Board of Adjustments on the request for variance. We do have Jen Meyer with RG and Associates to present that variance review to the board tonight.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Then at this time, we will now go into public hearing at 6:33. If you would, Jen.
Good evening, Board. My name is Jen Henninger. I'm with RG & Associates, assisting the town with this variance. The variance before you this evening, the applicant is Mr. Kurt Weinberger, and he is located at 98 Stampede Way. The request before you is actually for 3 separate variances, and I'll discuss those in the presentation. This situation came to the town's attention when the property was issued a stop work order on the 22nd of November. Something to point out on this, on Stampede Way, if you all aren't familiar with the location, it is a corner lot, which will definitely play into this variance request. So the property owner was issued a stop work order for putting a shed, an accessory structure of 12 feet by 16 feet on his property without a permit. And then sometime between November 22nd and January 28th, the applicant also had a second driveway poured connecting to Stampede Way on the west side of his home. This shed was then placed on that driveway. To remedy the stop work order issue, the applicant was instructed to obtain a building permit from the town. A permit was applied for on the 16th of January, and on January 28th, the town's building inspector inspected the shed and found the shed had been put too close to the side property line. It was put 4 feet 2 inches to the property line, where the Highlands PUD zone district requires 5 feet for an accessory building from the property line. At that time, a variance request was submitted to the town. During planning staff's review, we determined that there were actually 2 other violations that were going on to the code. Those 2 parts of the code were section 19-2-220, B1, which states that accessory structures shall not be located in the front yard of a principal structure or home. In addition, the applicant would also need a variance from section 19-4-210C, which states a paved driveway or other paved parking space shall be designated in either the front yard or side yard of a residential property. And the total aggregate parking and/or driveway shall be lesser of 35% of the front yard area or 30 linear feet of the lot frontage. And he does not quite meet that standard. Staff did an analysis of the location of the shed and different parts of the property that it could be on. And that analysis is on page 2 and 3 of your staff report. If you would like further explanation of that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. But I know you have that before you. In terms of variances, when they come before the Board of Trustees, acting in this case as the Board of Adjustment, there are 9 criteria that you need to consider when considering a variance. Those are listed on page 4 of your staff report, and I will go through those. So 1 is an exceptional condition, practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship exists to require the variance. The shed and the driveway are already present. Staff feels that the applicant was given basically ill-informed by his contractor and what was needed to build this shed. So that is the exceptional condition. 2, such practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship has not been created by the owner or the applicant. Again, this goes back to the ill information that he was given by his contractor that we are understanding now is not accessible or returning calls at this time. Number 3, the 3rd criteria, does not allow land use otherwise not permitted by the zoning district. Sheds and additional driveways are permitted in the High Plains PUD zone district, so there's no conflict there. 4, the variance, if granted, will not be detrimental to the public good. The owner's ability to have a shed and a second driveway is not a negative impact on the public. In addition, according to the applicant, none of his neighbors have an issue with the shed or the driveway and the location of them. Number 5, the variance, if granted, will not create conflict with the town comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan shows 19 Stampede Way as being within the town's single-family residential land use area, and that single-family residential land use areas do allow for sheds. 6, the variance, if granted, will not impair the intent and purpose of this chapter. It is staff's opinion that should the variances be granted, the proposed shed will not impair the intent and purpose of the code. The 7th criteria, the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood or district in which the property is located. The applicant is permitted by code to install a 12-foot by 16-foot shed, which is the size shed that he is proposing without objection. The objection here is the location of it. 8, the variance, if granted, shall not diminish the value, use, or enjoyment of adjacent property. Adjacent property owners have indicated that they do not have an issue with the placement of this shed. 9, the variance, if granted, is the minimum variance that will afford relief and is the least modification possible of the provisions of this chapter, which are in question. As outlined on pages 2 and 3 of your staff report, staff did go through and try to basically place the shed on different locations on the property, and due to other setbacks or being in front of the home, this actually, where he has placed the shed, is the minimum impact or variance that would be necessary to have a shed on his property. In terms of public input, obviously we're having the public hearing this evening. The applicant has coordinated with all public notice requirements and worked with the town clerk for property public hearing notice steps. Planning staff, in addition, has not received any negative comments about this application. Based on the above observations and findings of fact presented this evening, staff recommends the BOA support staff's position and approve all 3 variances and the conditional statement as stated now. Variance number 1, from section 4.0, paren 2, paren B of the High Plains PUD to permit an accessory structure shed 4 feet 2 inches from the side property line. Variance number 2, from section 19-2-220, paren B, paren 1 of the Lochbuie Land Development Code to permit an accessory structure in the front yard of a principal structure. And variance 3, from section 19-4-210, paren C of the Lochbuie Land Development Code to permit a paved driveway in both the front yard and side yard of a residential property in lieu of the code's prohibitions, and to permit the second driveway to take up more than 35% of the front yard area frontage. And then also this conditional statement that these variances stated above run with the land and are applicable to the current owner and subsequent ownerships of the property. This concludes staff comments. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Trustee Straub?
Oh, boy. Yeah, I have quite a few comments about this. All right. In the first place, you know, they received a stop work order, and they hadn't even poured concrete yet, so they went ahead and did that on their own. I also would...
No. Sir, please hold your comments. Go ahead.
I'd also like to say that, you know, if you drive around town, the stop work order is actually on what I would call the front door. Now, if you drive around town, the majority of the homes have the front door facing the street, which is, you know, it's a main street, it's not a secondary street. My biggest thing on this whole thing is I believe the address should be changed to a Willow address. If that would happen, according to our code, the backyard and accessory structure could be 3 feet within the fence. On the side yard, they're more than 15 feet away from the fence, from the side lot line, with their accessory building, and the cement they poured wouldn't make any difference at all. So to me, this whole thing is a matter of maybe talking to the postmaster and having the address moved to the other side of the house, and then no variance would be necessary.
That would be the county, actually, but go ahead.
That's all, thank
All right.
you.
Trustee Early?
The contractor that was here, is he out of Canyon City?
I am not sure what the records say for the contractor.
Durabille? And you said you tried to call them?
Yeah.
When I went to, when I,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
hesitate to
Yeah,
say
you-
that if you're gonna have a conversation with somebody that's in the audience, we wait and allow that person to come up
Yes. You-
and talk on the record.
Just directly to
okay,
her.
do you want me to do that now or wait?
Just
If
wait.
you have questions for this witness,
Okay.
I would ask questions for this witness. If you have questions
I just have questions for the owner.
Okay.
And the applicant will
Yeah.
give a presentation
Okay,
after you
that's
have
fine.
questions.
I didn't know.
No, no.
Anything else?
No, I have
All right.
questions.
Trustee Ott?
The only question I have is the public utilities 5-foot wide setback. Is the 10 inches going to affect anything if they have to go through there for some utility deal? Will they have to clear up the shed?
Steve, do you know if this was sent to any referral agencies?
I don't know, it was sent to utility company.
Yeah, because typically we don't for variances. I would doubt it would be an issue. The applicant might be able to address that when he comes up too.
Yeah, I don't fully know, but I believe the 5-foot setback isn't so much for utilities as it is for fire and things of that nature.
That's the only question I
Okay.
Uh,
have.
Trustee Doherty?
Yeah, I just had one question for you on the driveway itself. So it's mentioned that it's over the 35%, but I thought you had said something that it's not all that much over the 35. Can you? I don't see anything in the packet that clarifies. Like, is it at 90? From the pictures, it doesn't look like 90, but do we have an idea of what that? I mean, if it's 36 or if it's 90, it might be a different conversation. Again, I don't think it's 90. I can do a quick look on the picture, but
Yeah. I apologize that that calculation is not in here. I know when we did our analysis, it was, so I apologize. Let's see.
and then so for that analysis, are you taking just? And I think that might have been in there. You're just taking the length of Stampede Way, and so that's the 35% of the length essentially.
It would actually, it would be that area.
Of the front lawn
Yeah,
or the
yeah.
front.
Right, so it's
Okay.
30 linear feet.
Okay, so it is the length across the front?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It appears. That
That
would
was
be
my
my
only question. I was kind
interpretation.
of curious. I guess it looks like it's probably over 50, but I was more curious than anything. That's the only questions that I have.
All right.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
I was just, can you clarify or answer Trustee Strack's question about whether the concrete was poured after the stop work?
That, do you have record of that from your building permit records?
From the picture, it shows that it was, because the picture shows the stop work on the door and the driveway not poured.
Yeah, that's, I believe the building permit text said it was poured after the stop work order.
Okay. I will have follow-up questions for the applicant.
So, with this, can I follow up? I'm sorry.
One second. You already finished?
That's all I had, yeah.
Okay. Trustee Morris?
I have no questions other than just thank you for the work you did and the work that staff did and the due diligence into researching this and looking at how it applies to the code and considering the best interest of the town. So thank you for that, and thank you for the recommendation that was attached. That's all I had.
Trustee Doherty?
So, looking at so if this is a copy of the stop work is based on no permit. My understanding, flat work does not require a permit, so this stop work doesn't technically apply to the driveway. So, just because the stop work was there and then he poured the sidewalk, or the driveway, I don't think that's really relevant because the stop work has nothing to do with the driveway.
I agree with that.
So, I don't-
Now, I will ask the question of Steve, do you require a drive cut permit?
We don't have drive cuts.
Okay.
All of our
Flat.
all of the curbs
Are roll-
are
Hollywood
rollover
curves.
curbs, yeah.
Okay. So no, I mean, the stop work order was for the shed.
Okay.
And no, you do not, to my knowledge, you do not need a permit to pour
Right.
concrete.
Anything else?
That was it, sorry.
Okay. All right, then nothing else. Thank you very much. All right, and we'll take more testimony. If you would like to step up and speak, sir, and answer any questions.
I'm just frustrated and not real happy right now.
Okay.
What else can I say?
All right, well, we'll allow the board to ask you questions. Trustee Ott?
Basically, my only question was if somebody has to go through the public utilities, they're gonna damage your shed, and there's really not much you can do about it.
Okay. All right. Trustee Early?
Did you have 811 come out and mark where utilities were?
Did I have someone?
Yeah, did you have them
No.
come before they did the
When I had this
project?
bill, the contractor said I didn't need a permit.
Did you see his contractor's license for Lock Buoy?
No, I didn't.
And is Durabile, is that, you said it's out of Monument, it says Canyon City on
And
your
he's
website.
out of Oklahoma too. He does them in Oklahoma and Colorado.
Yeah, their website said, you said you tried to call them, their website said to text them or email them, did you do that also, trying to get them
I did
to
everything.
help you?
Right, I did everything. And his wife just pretty much ignored me, so he wouldn't even talk to me.
Okay. Well, and then the only other question I have is on the two driveways, when they're both put together, that is more than 35% of the land, which is in our land use book.
Here's the thing. That's really not my front. I don't even have a front door. So why would that be considered the front of my house?
It's a whole lot, it's not just the front, right? Even though it's a curve?
Okay, my next question is, would you rather have weeds and dirt or a nice driveway and a nice shed and a nice landscape to look at?
That's a good question.
Anything else, Ms. Early?
No, that's it.
I mean, the money that I've put in to my property has upped the value of the property, the houses around me also.
All right. Trustee Struck?
Well, I'm sorry for all the grief that this has caused you, sir. I'm sorry that we're all here tonight, too. You brought up a very good point. When I look at this drawing of the house, it has the old driveway. The picture shows the front door facing Willow. There's no door on the west side that they're calling the front of your house.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
Why not just change the address, and then he doesn't need any of these variances? So my question is, why can't his address be changed.
That's a
And
county-
everything
That's
dropped.
a county thing.
Well, I don't care whose it is, I'm just saying that
So,
that's the problem.
you know, is that going to be another headache for me, just getting my address changed? I don't know.
Yes.
Well,
But
I
my,
would
my
think it'd
point
be-
is, I put all this money into my house, my property. It's hurting no one. My neighbors, right here, they're, the shed, they have no problem with it, do you? Zero.
Trustee Straka, it
So-
still would not.
So, sir, if it were me, I would try to change the address. If not, I would just rely on this board to
The
give
address
you the
change really doesn't
variance.
do anything, because there's still got
So-
you got still the easement issue, but anyway.
Well, there's enough
continue.
people here, he'll get his variance anyway without changing your address.
Do you have any more questions, Mr. Straka?
No, thank you.
All right. Trustee Morris?
I think it looks great. It's gonna look
Thank
great
you.
when you finally get it all done, or when we let you get it all done. But starting in November and now we're into July, that's a really long time to get it. to get
Yeah, and
our
I've been,
project done.
I've been dealing with this since November. And lo and behold, I had a heart attack in April. I'm not saying this caused it, but yes, I was stressed out about this, and I didn't get any answers. I mean, I emailed every one of you, and you didn't answer me. My girlfriend talked to you, and you said you couldn't do anything about it. But you're the mayor. I don't.
This is where we do it. This is where we take care of that stuff. We can't do it unilaterally as individuals. Go ahead.
This is a quasi judicial matter, and so he can't talk about something that can come before the board where he has to act like a judge, like all these folks have, to weigh evidence that's presented to them so that they can make a decision.
Right.
That's why he can't talk about it outside of the context of this hearing. And so I apologize that that's how it works, but that's really how it
It's-
works, because otherwise somebody can, it hurts the process, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just beyond frustrated. And I'm just venting here.
You're no problem. Understood. Anything else, Mr. Morris?
Yeah, it's regrettable that it's taken this long, and I'm sure it's been a tremendous learning opportunity for you and for other people about the right way to go about permitting and getting projects done. But I'm confident that we'll get it resolved for you tonight, and I don't have any more questions. It was pretty evident there. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
Yeah, it sounds like you're just another victim of a crappy contractor in town, and that appears to be a consistent problem here, so, I mean, I think that's something our staff needs to look at.
He told me it was anything under 200 square foot, I didn't need a permit. Well, it was 196. Well, come to find out, it's 120 square foot and under, you don't need a permit.
I guess the only question I had is, and hopefully your next witness, one of your neighbors can come up and address it briefly, is the thing that I always look at with these is, what are the people around this house saying? And I'm glad to hear that you have someone saying, I don't mind, rather than just, we didn't hear anything.
Right.
So I'll look forward to hearing from them, and that's really the only concern I had.
All right.
Okay.
Trustee Doherty?
So I guess I have a couple of things just to kind of, to break the three variances of, and make them separate from each other. Let me see. So the accessory structure at the front of the yard, I absolutely see kind of where you're coming from on that. The front doesn't really make sense with kind of how your property's laid out.
Right.
So that makes a lot of sense, and I, you know, as we have to go through kind of our nine points, I definitely see that this variance is acceptable in my opinion based on those 9 criteria. When I get to the first variance, or actually I'm going to skip that one, let me come back to that one, the third variance about the 35%. I believe this is kind of the front yard as well, and it's kind of the line across the front. The one thing that I guess I would like to say is I personally don't think that because it's already built that automatically makes it a hardship on a person that worked, or a person that lived, or the homeowner. And my reasoning for that is because then all of our citizens could go build things and then request variances because
they didn't comply with code. Again, I don't think that this is quite that, but I don't think that the town should get into a habit of approving variances based on things already being built because the variant or the code wasn't followed. I think that's a really bad habit to get into by the town. Just because it's already built, that's, in my opinion, that's a hardship that the homeowner put on themselves for not understanding and going through the code. With that said, for that third variance, even if we kind of consider it at the front, I guess that's really where I'm seeing is I agree with you. It's really not the front of your property. It's kind of the side. So I don't really have any general issues with that one. Although I think for future things, I definitely would request that if you have any questions for, you know, what the codes say and things like that for building in the future, just give our staff a call and they can help, or Safe Built, so they can help kind of understand what some of the regulations are, because there's definitely a lot of things to go through.
I'll definitely do that if I do any.
So
I'm probably not going to do any. I'm not going to build like a garage. I mean, forget that, right?
Fair enough. Maybe you're going to add a second story on your house.
A hot tub on top of my house, maybe.
So the first one is actually the one that I have kind of the biggest issue with, and I definitely understand your frustration, but personally, I think your frustration should be towards your contractor, not to the town. The setbacks that are in there, and I understand that this has been kind of a long process for you, but the setbacks are in there for utilities, it's in there for fire, and one of the things that I kind of look at is that 4'2", it's not just 4'2", and then you have just your neighbor's
Can I say something? I thought it was 4 feet. I was looking at the wrong sheet. That's why I went 4 feet. If I knew it was 5 feet, I would have went. I was just looking at the wrong. Priscilla gave me 2 sheets, and I looked at the wrong one.
That's fair. I can understand that. But my concern is, so in a lot of the sheds that we see, they build them in their backyard, and the next structure is, you know, the house, and it's like 40 feet away. So this is not adjacent to another structure. But looking at the pictures that we have presented here, not only do we have your neighbor's house or garage or whatever, there's a structure right next to this at their setback as well, but there's also a tree. And I think both of those things have a factor in this. Is the 5 feet is also based on fire safety as well. We don't want another Chicago fire, San Francisco, things like that. Granted, Lockwood is obviously not anywhere near those sizes of places, but that's why some of these things are in place.
Right.
And that's the most concerning to me. I mean, so even though your neighbors right now aren't concerned by that, if your shed starts on fire and it catches their house on fire, I think there's issues. Or if they move out and somebody else moves in and then your shed starts on fire and it starts their house on fire.
So you're thinking 10 inches is gonna?
Well,
I mean, come on, it's 10. It's 10 inches.
Well, and I guess I can see that too. But I guess where I'm coming from is if I get pulled over for going 1 over, I still went 1 mile an hour over the speed limit. I can't just ask for grace on that. I mean, because we can do that all day long. 4 feet. Well, so where do we stop? Is it 10 inches? Is it 12 inches? Is it 16 inches? Where do we cut the line? And where we cut the line, in my opinion, is at the 5 foot that the code says. I mean, it's just like if I was to design a building and I designed it for 50 pounds per square foot and it was supposed to be done for 70. I can't just say, hey, you know, where is it really that big of a deal? There's these factor of safeties and things like that. And then on the flip side of that same thing, I get that's my biggest concern. I understand that you were told by your contractor that you didn't need a permit, which would have fleshed this out. But even on items that we don't have to pull permit, we still have to comply to city code.
And yeah, that was my fault. I should have pursued it further and just not took his word for it. I get that. But there again, we're talking about 10 inches. I mean, come on. I mean.
So it's about 20% too close, if you put it into that perspective.
And here's another thing. If it was 5 feet, right? I have a fence going to their fence. If it catches on fire, if their garage catches on fire, if my shed catches on fire, it's gonna catch the fence on fire anyway. No matter if it's 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet. See what I'm saying?
I do, but our code says 5 feet, and I think that needs to be held. I understand that you were misled by a contractor, but I don't believe that that's grounds based on our own criteria to allow a variance. So I'm in favor for the second and the third. Yeah, the second and the third variance, but I'm pretty adamant about the 4 feet the 5 feet requirement regarding variance 1.
Okay. All right. Anyone else have anything else? No? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else to say?
No, thank you.
Any other testimony? Anyone else want to speak? Please step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Sheila Starr, and I live at 82 Stampede Way. I'm his direct neighbor and only connected neighbor, like actually right next door. My boyfriend and I have lived at our property for almost 3 years now. I see in the neighborhood a lot of weeds, a lot of piled up cars and driveways, a lot of, clutter in our neighborhood. Since Kurt has built this driveway and shed, I feel privacy, I feel protected, I feel that it looks great. I've also spoken with other neighbors in our area, and everybody agrees, as far as the people that I've spoken to, how beautiful, what a compliment to our neighborhood. I can't believe the hardship that he has faced in just trying to comply with the requests, that have been made. I think that he's doing everything that he can, and I really appreciate everybody being here and, everybody's input and everything. It's a really big deal to have any amount of support. But I just want to be here on his behalf to support everything that he's put into this, and with all of his health issues and everything else going on. He's lived in this house for 12 years, and he finally does something to fix it up, and I feel like he's, getting hit from every direction on it. And I just wanted to say that, I advocate for him, and I know a lot of my neighbors do. So if you guys could take that into consideration, it would mean a lot.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Questions, comments, Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
No, thank you for showing up and voicing your support, though.
Absolutely.
This is always the most important part of variances for me, because often we don't hear from any neighbors. We just hear, well, no one complained.
Yeah, and
That's
it's not just me. There's other neighbors that I've spoken to, the adjacent neighbor across the street. When we had that glorious hailstorm, we were all outside admiring the traumas that we all experienced, and we met with several of our neighbors, and everybody, and I mean everybody that I spoke to that was out there, was just like, wow, this looks so great. Because how many people walk down the street to just look at their neighbor's yard? How often does that ever happen? Well, it was happening because of the hailstorm, and so many people were like, oh my gosh, this looks so great. And just to know that it wasn't just me that felt that way, I felt like maybe I should get up and say something about that, because it's not just me. And it's not just a personal thing because I know him. It's everybody in the neighborhood that I've spoken to has great things to say about it. And, in regards to the variance, I do agree with Kurt with that, it's 10 inches. And if there were a fire that was going to be severe enough to catch either, establishment on fire, I feel like the fence in between our homes is going to be enough to do it. I don't think the shed has anything to do with each other's homes catching on fire. If there's other things that we could do to comply with, variances in regards to his shed, rather than him having to tear it down and rebuild it, I think that, we'd be willing to hear other options if that was possible. Because he would literally have to tear down his entire shed and rebuild it. So if I have to cut down a tree after everything that he's been through, I'll cut down a tree. I just want to do what we can do to support him and everything that he's been through for this.
Okay.
So.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren, anything else?
Nothing else, thank you.
Trustee Morris?
I'm sorry, I forgot we have to go through the whole thing. Sorry, guys. I'm used to everyone like, nope. Okay.
thanks for being here, thanks for supporting your neighbor, and thanks for coming to participate in managing a town, so thank you.
All right, trustee Strock?
So is his front door on Willow Street?
You are not gonna let that
No,
go, are you?
and you know what's funny is that we actually talked about this. We actually did talk about this, and I'm glad that you brought that up because, you know, it is a matter of, you know, a change of address. But that being said, like, we're gonna start the rodeo all over again
No, I
to do
understand.
that.
I spent $5,000 on a mailbox with attorney fees once, only to find out that it was the delivery person that made that decision.
Wow, that's
So you might ask the delivery person where he goes to the front door.
right. Well, and you know, it is. It's a matter of, you know, Willow or Stampede. It looks great no matter which street.
Well, if you
It
can't
says-
find your packages, they might be on Stampede.
All right,
Thank you.
all right, trustee Early,
Nothing, thanks.
Okay.
trustee Ott?
I just want to echo what Mayor Pro Tem Walker said. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah.
I wish we had more people who would show up to give us their input for all of our decisions we make. Thank you again.
My pleasure.
Trustee Doherty?
I have nothing. Thank you as well.
Yep. Is that
Thank
it?
you, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other? Okay. All right, anyone have anything they want to say? Go ahead.
So just on, it's the, actually the High Plains PUD that requires the 5-foot setback, trustee Strock. And also, if you read through some of the other parts of our development code, on a corner lot, you essentially have 2 front yards, and one of the front yards can be considered a side yard in some cases, but it's not a rear yard. So
That's what I read here on page 24, residential R1. So if their backyard were the back of what I would actually call their yard, it says right here, an accessory structure can be 3 feet.
correct, but the PUD requires 5 feet.
It does say 5 feet, and the
No,
other problem was if
the
it's
lot-
7.5 to start with, the problem was made long ago.
Yeah. So the PUD, though, that house sits in requires 5 feet, not 3 feet.
On the back side.
On a lot line, the minimum setback in that PUD is 5 feet.
Minimum for that house, and it's a couple, on the east side, it's what, 10 feet or 5 feet to the fence and 5 feet
Well, I
on the
don't know,
south
but
side?
my point is changing the address wouldn't solve his
Yeah.
Yeah,
problem.
right. Well, I think it would, because all of a sudden the backyard becomes, and the side yard that
It's
attaches
still
to
5
the
feet.
That's what
street.
Steve's saying. No, it's 5 feet regardless.
Still 5 feet.
It's 5 feet, period.
I'm sorry, 5 feet?
It's still 5 feet.
Well, okay, so it's still 5 feet, other than our code book here.
But it's a PUD, PUD governs.
It's, yeah,
Oh, so the PUD
correct.
overrides this,
Okay.
preamps.
It's overruling.
Well, it
Anything
still
else?
seems like an obvious
All right.
mistake to me, so.
Okay, anyone have anything else they want to state? No? All right, with that,
For comments or for questions?
comments. You want to make a comment or question, anything you want?
Don't we close the hearing first and then?
Well, I just want to leave you guys to have any statements or anything you want to ask. If there's anything else, the individuals are still here. Anyone have anything they want to ask? No? Okay. All right, and with that, it is now 7:10, and we will close the public hearing and adjourn the regular meeting. With that, anyone have anything? Nothing?
Are we going to go down, do our thing?
Yep. You want to do it? Go ahead.
I'll go
Mayor
first.
Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yeah, first thing I wanted to say is I apologize that the process was such a pain for you, but there is an importance to the process, and it's to make sure that the code is complied with when it can be, and that if it can't be, variance requests are made. And unfortunately for you, that ended up being a months-long process, and it never should be like that, and it shouldn't be stressful. It should really just be going through step A, B, and C and getting you here in front of us to make what sounds like is going to be a relatively easy decision for you. So I apologize for that. In terms of my reaction to the actual variances, I think the 9 criteria have been satisfied. I would adopt staff recommendations, and I'm intending to vote to grant the variance tonight, subject to the conditions staff has put on it.
All right. Trustee Doherty?
I guess I don't really have anything additional. I commented on variance 1 regarding the setback. I think the 5 feet setback should be held. Although I do believe that there are other ways around that around that for variance. One thing that I have seen in the past is if your structure is made and built with certain materials, you can go inside that, because then if it's non-combustible, you don't have those issues. But in general, I think that the 5 feet setback needs to be held, in my opinion.
Okay. Trustee Ott?
I think staff recommends it, and I don't see any problems with it.
All right. Trustee Morris?
Same. I appreciate staff's due diligence and recommendation. I appreciate Mr. Weinberger, the hardship that you've been through. I'm sure if you had to go through this process again, it would be a different rodeo and be probably a lot smoother and stuff. Thank you for going through the process. Thank you for being a resident of the town, and thank you guys, other residents, for being here. Tell all your friends and family that it's an awesome place to live, and stick around. We appreciate having you here. I'm in favor of adopting staff's recommendations and granting all 3 variances.
I was just going to ask you, why are you doing a commercial?
Because Loch Buoy is on the map.
Trustee Strock?
I'm in favor of this variance.
All right. Trustee Early?
Nothing additional.
Okay, thank you. And I have nothing at this point, so I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion, and I think I'm going to do the variances individually, since it sounds like we might have some different votes on them. So I'll make a motion to approve the variance number 1, subject to the conditions recommended by staff.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Trustee Strock?
Yes.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Trustee Doherty?
No.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
Yes.
And Mayor Mahoney?
Yes, and motion carries.
And then I will make a motion to approve variances number 2 and variance number 3, subject to any conditions as recommended by staff.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Ott?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Early?
Yes.
Trustee Strock?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren?
Yes.
And Mayor Mahoney?
Yes, the motion carries.
And and Trustee Doherty, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Motion carries. All right. Congratulations, and, you know, sorry you had to go through it all and have a little heart issue there, you know. Hope that wasn't part of the issue, but have a good one. Enjoy, and stay in Loch Buoy. It's a good place. Listen to the, you know, we had the whole commercial going there. All right.
Place to be.
You sign off on something and
Do you have to sign something?
Actually, they'll have all of that stuff. Yeah, there's nothing that you need to have. It's on the record, and you are good to go. So it's all, go ahead. Are you gonna, oh, I thought you were gonna say something. As far as, did they ever do a permit? Because if there's a permit pulled, then eventually they will get then you will get, Safe Built will go through and
Right.
and issue your permit.
And that might be a separate issue. The code does require a recording when a variance is granted.
Yeah.
So we'll just prepare a summary of what happened here so that a document identifying what the variances were and what was granted tonight can be recorded.
And then that'll have to go forward to Safe Build, correct? Or will
The
that-
variances won't have to go through
Okay.
Safe Build. This is just something that would probably be signed by the mayor,
Yeah, okay.
summarizing what occurred here tonight, and then that would be a recorded document so that it runs with the property so that there's no question, should there be a transaction later, whether or not that accessory structure is in violation of the code.
Okay. And then, so you will get, but he will end up getting from Safe Built his CO for his permit, correct?
He's planning on occupying.
Well, his completion for, he's gonna live in it.
We'll follow up with Safe Build, and they'll do whatever they do.
Okay,
So,
all right.
so will they come out again? Say so?
I couldn't
We'll need
tell
to
you.
tell them the
Do-
variance.
do-
I mean, that's
do a
some,
final
Priscilla
inspection.
will tell them the board approved the variance, and Safe Built will follow up.
Do their final, okay. But other than that, you're good to go. All right, with that,
Move to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, we are adjourned at 7:16, and we'll go into the work session. Okay, we'll take a little break.
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, man. Okay, yeah, you got a 30-second break. Yeah, oh. Like, dude, what's he running for?
That's funny.
Look, Mr. Morris, on the campaign trail, hard at work.
The election's not till 2020, man.
I'm
No.
Grumpy old band now.
campaigning now, all the time.
Like, what are you campaigning for, man?
Absolutely nothing. My replacement. I ran into
Hey, by the way, are you ever gonna get your...
My yard?
No. That's funny. I did watch that movie, by the way.
Which one?
Over the Hedge.
Hello.
Anyway, your friend that was gonna join the planning commission, they keep...
Maybe not. I'm guessing maybe he might.
I had some guys get up on my roof the other day telling me it was gonna be $45,000.
You know how many people have knocked on my door, and my roof is fine, and it looks beautiful.
I said, get off my roof.
They shouldn't have been on your property to start with.
Well, none of them got license. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, this one, the Princess Way.
Steve brought up that he wants to do the groundbreaking for Road 2. So we want to figure out a date when we can all go out there. I like Grant's idea, we all sit in back rows. Yeah. As long as they're not operational. We'll have some of the Tonka ones. So.